This July, we're taking life seriously. Cardiac arrest is scary and more common than you might think. Did you know that every year nearly 9 million people will experience a cardiac event outside of hospital? Would you know what to do? I'm Australian actor Steve Bastoni, and I'm urging everyone to learn CPR as part of our Don't Die July campaign. Visit don'tdiejuly.com and sign up today, because you can't put a price on life.
Critically analyzing global affairs. Talk TNT.
Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Muckrakers with me, Andrew Eborn. And here on the Muckrakers, we pledge to continue tackling the most pressing and controversial news issues of our time. Our mission is to provide more light and less heat on the matters that really concern you. It's vital we don't just ask the questions, but question the answers. And it's a conversation with, rather than an interrogation of. Well, horrendous events over the weekend. Well, today we're going to discuss the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and also dig deeper into the true story about the devil's advocate. It's all coming up here on the Muckrakers, and to help me do it today, the Muckrakers is made up of myself and my co-host Chris, Hart, and also Giovanni Di Stefano. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let me fill you in on a bit of information we know about Chris, who's been a wonderful guest and on the shows, many shows, and also co-host last week as well on the Muckrakers. Now, Gio is a brilliant character, and I know I've been reading up about him, watching all sorts of interviews, watched the docudrama, saw Chris's brilliant interview as well, and he's a self-proclaimed international movie mogul and businessman and self-proclaimed defender of the indefensible, known as the devil's advocate in supporting high-profile and notorious defendants worldwide. He's advocated for dictators and out-of-favour presidents, including Saddam Hussein and many others. In March 2013, he was convicted of 25 charges, including deception, fraud, and money laundering between 2001 and 2011. And during the trial, he told the court of his links to Robert Mugabe, Osama bin Laden, and Saddam Hussein, who apparently he described as a nice guy. Well, we're going to dig deeper into that a little bit later. Giovanni says he's an ex-political prisoner, having been freed in April 2023 after 10 years in jail. I first of all want to look at the horrendous events that we saw on July the 13th, when former President Donald Trump, the Republican Party's presumptive nominee in the 2024 presidential election, was shot in the upper part of his right ear at a campaign rally near Butler in Pennsylvania. Now, all sorts of questions have arisen out of this, and the person who's presumed, everything's a presumption at the moment, to be the person who shot him is somebody called Crooks, who was a 20-year-old kitchen worker, and apparently he shot him with a semi-automatic AR-15 rifle. He opened fire at the former president while he was addressing the crowd in Butler. I've seen the footage, I've seen all sorts of reports, all sorts of questions, not least why on earth the security services had not swept that roof, which was so close by. Gio, what's your take on it?
Well, my take on it is this, is that unsuccessful act has just secured the presidency of Donald Trump. Of course, had it succeeded, that would have been the end of it there. But an unsuccessful, and we've had this before with Reagan, we've had this before, even Abraham, with people assassinate presidents or have an attempted assassinations of presidents there. And that is what alarms me, because in Italy, our ex-president Sandro Pertini, who was a political prisoner and spent 10 years in jail during the war, never required any bodyguards. He always went around Italy. He was loved. So it's more the requirement. I question more the requirement of excessive security than people making attempts. If people love you, why the hell would they want to kill you?
Yeah, and it is interesting, isn't it, Chris? Because if you look at this sort of stuff and all the evidence that we see so far, it begs so many questions. What are your views on the situation?
Well, actually, over the weekend, I did a shamanic journey with an actress that I work for, and she asked me about Trump and the future of Trump. And I actually saw a vision of him being poisoned and dying before the end of the year. So I think if the deep state, I stand by this prediction that he is going to be murdered before the end of the year. And I think if the deep state want him dead, then they will get him dead. And I think poison will be a better way to make it look like a heart attack or a stroke or something to that effect. I mean, I don't think they, will just leave it at that if they want him dead. And of course, they can use MK Ultra, mind control with anybody nearby and this kind of thing. So the deep state have a lot more power than we think. And if they want someone dead, then they will be dead.
What I find extraordinary, and it's the sort of language of war, isn't it? That we had this about being in the crossfire. Biden made a reference to that a few days ago, an unfortunate reference about having Trump in the crossfire. We basically also had over here Sir David Amess and Joe Cox were both murdered. Both politicians were murdered, and people are now in fear. Talk to me, Gio, about violence in politics and why that's suddenly arisen so much.
Well, it's mostly in the African countries. You don't vote for a new president. They just kill the old one and you put a new one in there. So it's become an infectious disease into the West as well now. If you can't win by the ballots, you win by, as Christine says, by poison. And talking of poison, one thing is for certain, we're still awaiting the post-mortem results of Yasser Arafat, my friend. And after so many years, I mean, he was definitely poisoned there because, he was very, very much okay. We live in dangerous times. If you don't fall into the system will fall into you and will that. And I think that something needs to be, I don't know what can be done because it's gone too far now. That's my own view there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we're living in a diseased information age, aren't we? I said in my introduction to you that you're one of the most controversial and colourful characters I think we've had on the show. But so many people have different reports, which I'm very keen here on the Muckrakers that's our mission. We're not taking sides on either thing. It really is in search of the truth. But the assassination attempt on Trump over the weekend has led to all sorts of conspiracy theories, is what they're called, because they don't have all of that information. I still don't get, and you've got experience in this, Chris. I don't get how the Secret Service didn't sweep that particular building, which was only a few 100-odd yards away from where Trump was. Why would they have missed that, Chris?
Well, they do things like the security services and the spy services, they do things like allowing things to happen. For instance, the Omar bomb, I interviewed for the News of the World a guy who was an undercover agent working for MI6, and he had actually interacted with the bomb maker. And the bomb maker also, a man called Mooch Blair, he was also said to be an agent. And the bomb car was followed into Omar, but they let it go ahead because it suited their purposes. So this is how they operate. They don't operate in the way other people will see. Spies are